Hello and welcome to 5 Minutes in North Grenville. My name is Dr. David Shanahan, historian with the North Grenville Historical Society. This is a series of short stories about interesting places around the municipality. Beckett's Landing is one of the oldest sites in North Grenville. It was originally a crossing point on the Rideau River for First Nations and for early travellers. But when the Rideau Canal was built, the water level rose and it became more difficult to cross, and so a ferry service was put into operation by a man called Thomas Beckett. That's why it's called Beckett's Landing and why it later became Beckett's Bridge. He had a ferry service across the Rideau River for many years. It brought people who were travelling up from the St. Lawrence to the Ottawa, up to a place where they could cross the river or meet with the Rideau Canal steamers. For years, this was a major crossing point on the Rideau, and it brought a great deal of movement, commerce, and population to the North Grenville area. So much so that in 1838, the people of Grenville approached Beckett about building a road directly north from Grenville to his ferry. And the line of that road can still be seen today. It is difficult when you look at the road, Beckett's Landing Road as it is, to realize that this was the main highway running between Ottawa and Prescott. But for decades, all the traffic traveling north and south along that route crossed this area. In 1858, the government decided that they would install a swing bridge here, a swing bridge needed in order to allow traffic to continue up and down the river. It wasn't very high, so it had to move. And you can see the same thing in Burrett's Rapids. So the bridge was built around about 1861, and it stayed in place until 1936. It was well traveled and well worn by the time the 1930s arrived. In the 1920s, the road that crossed the bridge at this point had become a provincial highway. It was the third provincial highway in Ontario, which indicates something of its importance and the level of traffic that was crossing it. But when they did an investigation in 1936, they realized the bridge couldn't continue much longer. It had served its time. It had reached the end of the road, dare I say. And so a new bridge was planned. In the meantime, after they demolished the swing bridge, they made gaps in the bank on either side of the river during that winter, and traffic crossed on the ice. So it even continued in operation when the bridge was gone. Before they built the new bridge, which was planned for the site, it was realized that in fact the road traditionally had too many dangerous curves on it. There had been many accidents there on both the Ottawa side and the North Grenville side because the trails took major curves to get in line with the bridge. They decided therefore to move the location of the bridge further downstream, about 300 meters, very close to where the current bridge stands today. So in 1937, the new bridge opened. As we can see in the photograph, it was a long, many-spanned bridge that was built over a number of islands in the river. This was a much wider part of the river than had been at Beckett's Landing, so they needed to use a number of islands to support the bridge as it crossed the river. These islands had often been resort locations for cottages and holiday homes. They were now gone. The new bridge was in place until 1991. When it in turn was replaced by the current bridge. And the current bridge is actually only about 4 or 5 meters west of the original bridge. And if you go to the site, you can actually see the way the old bridge ran up to the river and then on the other side where it landed. So the change in the location of the bridges, the way the bridges were being used, changed everything in Beckett's Landing. The bridge was gone, and with it, a major terminus, a major crossing point for traffic. That crossing point had led to the development of a settlement around the area. And the Beckett family built a resort hotel there, a place where people could stay. They also had gas pumps. It became a summer resort. It was an active location for all those years. However, once the bridge was gone, once the bridge had been moved, there was no more traffic. It became a dead-end road as it is today. And business disappeared. The resort closed. It's now a private home, much changed from that time. But for decades, Beckett's Landing and Beckett's Bridge were at the centre of the transport system in Eastern Ontario and is now a quiet backwater in the history of North Grenville.